even Trump himself has admitted that we can't balance the budget. The federal government is trapped. And of course, because he's a Democrat and because he hates Trump, Powell's not willing to play along. There's only one way to get the kind of GDP growth that they're looking for, and that's massive inflation. The big print, it may not be coming tomorrow, but it's definitely coming sometime before the middle of next year. The asset markets are going to look through all this, and Bitcoin's going to 400 and gold's going to 5,000. I'm incredibly bullish. What's going on in macro world is really quite amazing, and I'm not sure everybody's focused on it and aware of what's happened. I mean, just to kind of recap the last 6 months, Trump came in and they put Doge into place, and they talked about trying to balance the budget. And I've often said the one case against Bitcoin or gold as investments would be if the government ever got its act together and balanced the budget. And so Elon comes in with Vivek, and they're going to take 2 trillion out, which of course is ridiculous, and then 1 trillion, and that was pretty ridiculous too. And now it turns out it's maybe 100 billion, and it's all good. I mean, I applaud the effort, but as what they found is that Lynn's statement is true: nothing stops the train. And so the Doge effort is, maybe going to save a couple hundred billion a year, and then they come with the tariffs very aggressively, rather poorly explained, etc., trying to solve that problem. And they immediately tank the stock market and realize, oh shit, we can't do that. Another reason why kind of nothing stops this train. And so he puts a 90-day tariff delay on to get the stock market back up, because he needs the stock market up. So if the stock market rolls over, tax receipts roll over, the economy rolls over. So, and of course, then the acronym TACO got, coined. And so the tariffs come and go, and then they get delayed. Now he's coming back at them. We'll see how the market reacts to that. But and then finally, the final piece of this puzzle that I thought was very interesting was that originally Bissett criticized Yellen for going to short-term issuance on all the bonds, when she had a chance in the 2021 timeframe to term out a lot of the debt at lower interest rates. And he criticized that decision. He implied that maybe he would term them out, as well. But what we've seen very recently is that he has absolutely no plan of doing that. In fact, he's going the other direction, and they're shoving everything into the short-term bills in terms of the money that they're raising to cover the deficits. They just increased the amount of short-term bills that they're going to issue 2 times, 25 billion times 2, and he announced he's going to try and take the TGA up to 500 billion. And that's relevant. The TGA is the Treasury's checking account, and the TGA is what he's been using to buy the longer bonds when they become illiquid, or when the bond market gets closer to the 10-year, which they watch very carefully. When it's a 4.4 now. When it gets to 4.5 or 4.6, they get very nervous. If it goes to 5, they have a heart attack. And so what you're seeing is, from time to time, he's using the TGA to go in and buy bonds. And all of these things really indicate that the federal government is trapped. And of course, because he's a Democrat and because he hates Trump, Powell's not willing to play along. And so, you've seen this incredible, verbal attack from the president on Powell. I mean, coming out, sending him a note and saying the rates are wrong, and implying that we should take rates down to, 100 basis points, to drop them by 300 basis points, take them down to 1.25 or something. And very, very aggressively calling on him to resign, et cetera. And of course, the more he does this, the more Powell will dig in, because Powell wants to be remembered as Volcker, and he doesn't want to have the whole thing blow up on his watch. And maybe he can get out till next May. But then they came in with another strategy, which I find fascinating, which is they said, okay, Powell, you're not going to leave. You're not going to cut rates for us. That's simple. We're going to create a shadow Fed president. We might even appoint somebody now to be the next head of the Federal Reserve. And by the way, we'll probably pick somebody who's extremely dovish. And then hopefully what the market will do is they'll look through, the next 9 months or 10 months from now, between now and next May, knowing that when that guy gets in or gal gets in at that time, we're going back to ZERP and QE. And so, that'll juice the markets. And then I guess there's one more piece of the whole plank. Somewhere along the line in here, Bissett and Trump and others kind of threw up their arms and admitted, well, this is when the big, beautiful bill came down, right? And they were going to cut expenses. And of course, the whole Freedom Caucus has disappeared. And there are only 2 people left in that, Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. And of course, Trump attacked them aggressively. Um, And they ended up increasing the deficit, increasing the spending, increasing the debt limit. But Trump came around the other side and said, "But don't worry, we're going to outgrow it." And so, what that implies to me, and I watched the stock market recover. I mean, I thought the stock market cracking on the tariffs was a serious crack that wouldn't be recovered from. And here we are at new all-time highs. And so I'm beginning to think that what we're looking at here is actually what von Mises described as a crack-up boom, which is, they just keep printing money and finding sources of money to shove into the system, and everything goes up because it has to go up. And so anyone who studied history, as Neil alluded to, Venezuelan stock market, the Weimar. I mean, the stock markets in highly inflationary economies can do pretty well because stocks represent a claim on a business's earnings, future earnings, and so it feels to me like that's the direction that they're aiming to take us. Now, whether they'll be successful at doing that, I don't know.
Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions.
But one thing is for sure, if Trump is going to emphasize growth, he's going to need cheaper money to do it. He's already angling to get that, and he will get that. We know for a fact next May. And so my sense is, this is, the big print, so to speak. I mean, it may not be coming tomorrow, but it's definitely coming sometime before the middle of next year. And markets are forward looking, right? They don't just look at what's happening now, they look at what they expect to happen. And if we do a shadow Fed president and we continue our assault on Powell, I think there's a very good chance that the asset markets are going to look through all this, and Bitcoin's going to 400 and gold's going to 5,000. So I'm incredibly bulled up on what I see happening, because even Trump himself has admitted that we can't balance the budget. He supported the big beautiful bill, and he's taken the path which says that we're going to grow our way out of it. And there's only one way to get the kind of GDP growth that they're looking for, and that's massive inflation. And the only way to get massive inflation is to get massive growth in the money supply, which of course we all know has to be coming. And that's what my book outlined has to eventually happen. And, they've had a lot of tricky ways of doing it. I mean, there's, in the Genius Act, there's something that says that, $3 trillion of bank reserves that are stored with the Fed might be able to be used. And this is kind of gray, to back stable coins. And, Trump is talking about how big they are on stable coins. Of course, they're huge stablecoin supporters, because if, there were $3 trillion of stable coins, then those, as we all know, the stablecoin issuers are huge buyers of the treasuries, and we got a lot of treasuries to sell. So kind of, wrapping all of that up, it's not coming in the traditional fashion. We don't have ZERP yet. We don't have QE yet, although they did cut the QT from 25 trillion or billion a month to 5. And maybe if something breaks, the Fed will be forced to act before Powell leaves. But, even if they're not, we know what's coming come next May. So, the big print, in my view, is still imminent. And the markets, I believe, will front run it. And that's why, Bitcoin's an all-time high today, and gold is bumping up right against its all-time high. So that's a lot.
Can I just say,
a lot of
sorry
stuff.
to interrupt you, Larry.
No, that's it. I mean, I'm done.
I love being in this room where none of us seem remotely excited about the all-time high, because that's the signal. Everyone's looking out long-term, not getting caught up in the hype. I love it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's 12 grand. I look, I mean, talk to me when it gets to 200, right? I mean, then I'll be like, all right, now we're talking.
I feel something again.
Yeah, I feel something. I mean, and I feel like I've been telling my clients, I mean, I think we're 140 to 200, within 12 months easily.
Let me break this down for my fellow Bitcoiners. In just 8 weeks, I've seen a serious shift. More strength, more energy, and fast muscle gains. The reason? FITSCRIPT. They ran 124 biomarkers, blood, hormones, inflammation, and built a fully custom plan: nutrition, training, supplements. No guesswork, no templates. This is functional medicine meets precision fitness for high-performing men who want sovereignty over their health. If you care about optimization the way you care about your money, test, don't guess. Don't trust, verify. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out FITSCRIPT and see what's possible.